Hello, it's Reasonably Effective Podcast here with myself, Uncommon Fossil, and my partner, 10 Types. And we're up to episode 13, and we see people are checking us out and growing on the podcast apps, which is great. And of course, we're there and on our YouTube channel. 10 Types, how has your Pokemon week been going for you?
It's actually been going very well. I had a really cool Jeopardy video I made that if you haven't seen, you should
Hmm.
check it out. It's really fun.
Yep.
It's not like the best video I've made, but it's which isn't setting high standards, anyways. But it's pretty fun. And then I also actually played a Pokemon video game for the first time ever. Well, other than I played Pokepark just a while ago, but I played Pokemon Scarlet this like yesterday or something. It was super honestly, it was kind of boring, but it's just kind of fun. And yeah, I obviously like know all the Pokemon. Not
Right.
necessarily what they do, but I know them from the TCG. Not that all of them are in the TCG yet, but I know them. So that was kind of cool. And you haven't ever played a Pokemon video game either, right?
I have not, so I'm looking forward to trying it out at some point. Hopefully, it doesn't confuse you, right? You don't want to try to play the TCG like the video game characters because that won't get you where you want to go all the time.
Yeah.
You did say it was a little laggy or visually wasn't quite all you would want on the Switch. Is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty framey. It's kind of people have talked about it a lot. It's like the big criticism that it doesn't run super well.
Yeah.
There's like a scene where like one of the characters is like, yo, look at this awesome scenery, and then it shows this like tree that's not loaded in right. So yeah, and then there's like the like it just doesn't handle stuff super well, but it's okay. Like the gameplay is fine. I kept like drowning, but eh. Um, yeah, it's just kind of
Well,
cool. It's also like, especially during like the early stuff, you can't really actually explore that much.
okay.
I'm in Scarlet, so I have Koraidon, and I need to like upgrade it to be able to do more stuff. I think you can like backwards long jump to skip stuff, but I don't really know how that works. So
All
yeah,
right. I mean, maybe the visuals, maybe they've kind of split the team between live and the video game, so they can't really quite do either one as they should. I don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah, I have to say that Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet are definitely better than live.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope, right? It's really more of a new content using, I assume, most of the old mechanics that they have in the video game. I assume, but I
Well,
certainly don't know
so
that.
should live. Live should also be like that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, but we don't want to make this podcast about live
Yeah.
again, right?
Well,
So,
one more thing. I was playing live in Lost Box because Lost Box is like, in my opinion, the best deck in format. I think it's
yeah,
hard to make an argument for. I mean, you can certainly make arguments for other things, but I think you're wrong. I think Lost Box is definitely the best deck in the game right now, because it's like versatility and power and stuff. But
yeah,
with Comfy, there's like a major glitch where sometimes you just can't choose one of the other cards. Like you use it and you can only select
right.
one of the cards, and then you pretty much it's like really bad. I mean, it can be really bad if it. I think I like lost the game because of it.
Yeah, I've run into that at least once myself, and yeah, so you can only choose one of the two cards. The other one has to get lost zoned, and I think you were saying it was like an energy card, and with lost zone, if you lose too much energy, you lose the game. So yeah, it's not good. There's a lot of the selecting stuff, which is a big issue with different Pokemon search cards and stuff. So anyway, my Pokemon week's been going okay, although it's been a busy week. So when I found time, I wasn't somehow as focused, I think, on the gameplay as I was. So I was really struggling. I had gone from like 600, which you can get to easily because you in the rank, and got up to like somewhere eight, maybe above 900. And then this week I like went back down to 600. Like so it wasn't a good week that regard. So I was looking for a simple deck to play, which I think I finally settled on a Miraidon EX Regieleki VMAX deck. Without any flaffies because I was like also I was playing like decks and then like Gardevoir EX and then the Lost Zone, which I'd see every game, they would just blow away my Curlia engine every turn. So I was like, I don't know what to do here. And then, or I was bricking, right? Because again, decks don't set up. So I'm right on EX. You just get your Pokemon in play. It does what it does. Electric Generator usually hits you enough stuff. It's got its weaknesses, but most of the time it does what it does. So it's a simple deck too, and been decently for me. So I've been happy with that. I know you don't really like the deck, but
Yeah, I think
it's
you say you're running Klefki. I think you definitely need Klefki. I think Lost Zone's like so common on the ladder and so strong. And with Klefki, you can definitely beat it. Without Klefki, I don't think you're going to be beating it too much, though.
Yeah, I mean, you need at least two Klefkis, maybe even three, because you have to get two into play for because obviously they're playing rope, so you need two to switch. Um, it's a concern. I haven't seen Klefki, I mean, Lost Zone with the cards that will beat me, right? Because it is a
Well,
pretty
because
hard
your
loss.
Elo fell a bunch, right?
It did. I mean, but I like the last couple of games. It feels nice because I was like against Arceus Giratina deck, and I just one shot either of those, which is a nice feeling. Um, and stuff. I've been seeing a bunch of Miraidon decks too. I seem to be in the Miraidon tier right now, um, which is fine. But knocking out the V stars and such, hitting that 280 number pretty easily wins you a lot of games. So
Yeah.
it's a solid choice. It's not the best deck and format, but for a deck that's easy to play, um, I think it's one of the better choices there. So anyway,
But I think it's time to move into our
yep.
segment for today. Because we've decided that we're only doing one segment because, I don't know, we've ran out of ideas. Pokemon's gotten kind of boring, but we're actually going to be talking about some cards that I think will spice things up a little bit. Some underplayed cards. I'll go
Yep.
first here. I have a Pokemon I want to talk about that I think is very solid. Honestly, it's seeing a little bit of play. People are talking about it, but it's not like a ton of play. And I think it's Armarouge with its ability Fire Off, allowing you as often
Hmm.
as you like during your turn, you may move water energy fire energy from your
Fire.
bench to when
Yep.
you're active. This is the same ability as I believe Quagsire from something that actually saw
Okay.
play with Naganadel. It was the Nagquag deck. I didn't ever play that deck, but the Armarouge here, and I think the obvious synergy was with Magma Basin, where your start energy to
Yep.
your bench Pokemon could be your Armarouge, or something else, and then move it to the active, allowing you to not
Hmm.
have to switch. And you can obviously use this whenever. You can also switch between multiple Pokemon and not have to get extra energies in play.
Yeah, no, it's a very good card. It certainly does see some play. So and I think Arcanine EX is a nice partner with it because it's one attack for three energy. It does 250, which is a decent number. But you have to discard two, so then you're down to one. But then the first attack is for two energy, which you can attach manually. And if you're not, it's what, is it 10 per?
It's 30 plus 10 per damage count on it. So
Yeah. So if you're hit into, it's at a 280 HP, I believe. So you're not getting knocked one shot all the time. So you can do meaningful damage. But sometimes you want to use the second attack again. You have to have three energy. So really this is the way to set that up, right? You can manually attach and accelerate one from the bench to it. So it makes sense with that build for sure.
yeah, and I think also, not necessarily with Arcanine, but you can like put damage count. You don't want to damage your Arcanine necessarily.
Hmm.
Ideally, you're like living attack, and you're probably like trading KOs evenly with Arcanine. But if you're damaging yourself in the Magma Basin, you might just be dying.
Yeah.
And also you can do this with other fire attackers. I think one of the issues is that fire isn't an amazing type right now, but actually I really like the idea of accelerating the energy to Radiant Heatran, and that means
Yeah.
that Radiant Heatran will build up enough damage to be able to one-shot anything. And then
Hmm.
later on, you can just swing in with Radiant Heatran, um, or your opponent's not ignoring or not hitting your active instead of targeting Radiant Heatran. Radiant Heatran doesn't have any energy on it, so you still have your main attack of your Arcanine or whatever, and then
Right.
you're just gonna get like KO them with an Arcanine. So I think Radiant Heatran is actually very good and better than Radiant Charizard with its ability to get one shots.
Yeah, I was playing a little bit of an Arcanine EX build this week with the Radiant Heatran, which is very nice. Is it what, 60 per damage counter?
70. It's 70.
70, even better. So you get a couple Magna base, like two Magna Basins, and you
Magma
can
Basin,
take
yeah.
sorry, Magma Basin, and you can knock out really anything essentially in the any Pokemon in the game. So it's a really big threat there in and of itself. If you leave the energy on, or of course you accelerate it off. Either way you want to work it. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And that one is, I think, a strong card. Obviously, it's fire. Like I said, fire's not great now, but at least water isn't super strong either. So fire is certainly a viable option, for sure.
Yeah, and also I think you could pair this with Rapidash, from Silver Tempest that set with this ability Heat
Mhm.
Boost. You just got a fire energy from your hand, and then you do 30 more damage to your fire Pokemon. And I was
Yeah.
talking to some people about it. They were saying like the consistency is obviously a problem. I haven't actually found a way to fit this into like strong decks, but I think it is a very solid card, pushing up to 280 or even 310, which is 310 is essentially enough to KO anything that's like good at right now. I can't think of
Yeah.
anything that sees play that has more HP than that. There's something like Gudra, but Gudra does not. I don't know. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that one.
Well, that's a tough one, and you can't build a deck that beats every situation. So you take the tough spot, lost tough one like that.
Yeah, but I think Rapidash is pretty solid, and I think the Fire type package is very solid right now. I think people aren't kind of like sleeping on it, but it definitely has like a lot of power within it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's definitely really cool. I have the Zoroark deck I actually feature on my channel where it has like Arcanine, has that Heatran, and also has like some other Zoroark stuff. Zoroark's pretty solid right now. Both I think Hisuian and Arcanine is a great counter Miraidon, which you were playing, which is just such a
Mhm.
solid deck right now. And also the Slowbro is so good from Pokemon Go, allowing you to just take free prizes. You could even play the other Slowbro that heals. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. Some people have been finding that really good. I personally have not actually played it yet, but it's kind of interesting as an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say the Rapidash, my concern, I do like it, obviously, and the boost it gives, but what can you fit all the Pokemon in the bench space you want? Because you probably want some engine cards too in it, something to draw like a Barrel or Revavroom or something, and then you start to get a lot of different things going on, plus your attackers, which could be tricky. But
Yeah, that's the problem I was finding with the deck. That's why I don't have it in my like better build. I don't actually play Rapidash.
yeah, because I mean, 'cause I think to me, you might want Revavroom that gets you energy in the discard to Magma Basin and draws you to six. You got to
Yeah.
figure out how you want to synergize it. But yeah, so a very good card there. I agree that should see more. And fire has good pieces, so I think there should be more fire in general. I think there's room for exploration there. Um, so I'm going with a trainer for my first card, and it's not just a good card, but it's a great card. It's got great in the name, and that's Great Ball, the card that's just completely overlooked. I think, right? It did rotate. We still think it was a Sword and Shield card, but then it was reintroduced in Scarlet and Violet. So it's back. We can play it. We lost Incense and such, but obviously Nest Ball is a good card. You get a basic onto the bench, very good. But sometimes you want to get a card into your hand, and sometimes you don't want just a basic. And Ultra Ball is very good, but sometimes discarding two doesn't feel good. And there's decks where that discarding two to get a bunch of cards, right? If you need multiple cards, you're discarding like 4 or 6 cards, and you usually can't discard that many cards in a turn. So Great Ball in a deck where you have a mix of cards you need to get, especially if you need basics and evolutions, you might need to get some in your hand. I think it gives good flexibility. I think there's decks that definitely benefit by playing the card.
Yeah. Wait, it was reprinted in Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I'm looking for the. I'm pretty sure it is because it's legal now, right? And
Ye-
not now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's legal, but I can't find
So
the
it
reprint.
had to.
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm pretty sure this
I
is
don't
legal.
have. It is legal because I've played it and I've run into it. All right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna flip through the options here and find it. But
Um,
anyway,
I don't see. I don't know. You can play. I know you can play it. But I think it's like it's in. I don't know. It's just not consistent either. So I feel like that's like I don't know. So they're obviously Ultra Ball is very good. Nest Ball is very good. Level Ball is good in some decks. But then Capturing Aroma. I think like Great Ball is competing with Capturing Aroma, and yeah, it's legal. I don't even know like if it got.
sorry, it was in Crown Zenith, I believe. Right? That's
Oh,
the one with
okay.
little flames. So it's an F. So sorry. So it was. Um, but it's legal for what? We got 2 years of it. So
Yeah. Wait, does it have new art or is it the same art? Oh,
uh,
it's the same
I
art,
think
but
it's the exact same art actually as the Sword and Shield one
okay.
as I'm looking at it.
Anyways, so it's like it competes with capturing armor though I think right because nest ball is like almost always better, um, and so is ultra ball. Ultra ball is like directly better I'd say because it just
Well,
well,
yes and no.
like
I mean, I mean, Nest Ball, like if you need a Lumineon
Yeah.
or any on
Mhm.
play Pokemon, Nest Ball's no good. So honestly, I think Quick Ball. I'd rather have Quick Ball than Nest
Well,
Ball if I could have the
yeah.
choice. Now we don't
Yeah.
have the choice, but I get you. Nest Ball is more important in the deck than Great Ball,
And
and
Ultra Ball is as well.
it is. But I think this is probably a good number three for some decks, and I think some decks would benefit by it. Is what
I
I'd
think
say.
I think capturing them was like almost always better. Despite it being a coin flip, it's more consistent.
Well, yes and no. It's more consistent because you can search your deck, right? Instead of just looking at the top seven, but you don't know until you flip the coin whether it's an evolution or basic. So
Well, yeah,
if
but you don't
you,
know with Great Ball either. You have more, and you're always getting like Great Ball can just completely whiff. I think capturing them is just better than Great Ball.
I think like when I was working on, for instance, I'm trying to remember now, did I put it in my Arcanine EX deck? I might
Well,
have.
no wonder you were
Because,
losing with it.
no, but see, but Arcanine, because as you're talking about it, you have all these different Pokemon you want in it potentially, right? These different basics and these different stage ones, right? You want the one to accelerate energy, you want one to move it to the active, you want one to draw. You need all these pieces. It's kind of so if you have like a whole bunch of different Pokemon, if you hit one or two in a turn, you have enough pieces to make it work that turn, right?
Hmm.
That's what I would say. So there's some decks where you just need a card or two, and you can figure out how the pieces work, and it works for decks like that.
I know. I still think capturing them was better. And on my Arcanine list, which I do run Zoroark, but it's still like the same idea. I run four Ultra Ball, four Nest Ball, obviously, and then I run four capturing them because it's like it always gets you something. And I feel like Great Ball you can miss. Obviously, you want to play higher counts of Pokemon, so you're almost never gonna miss, but you're not gonna get what you want most of the time. If there's one card and you play four copies of it, you're still gonna miss it like a bunch of the time. Um, Capturing Roma, you're gonna miss it like half the time, obviously, and then but you're gonna get something pretty solid. And I think in a deck where you have some sort of game plan, I think capturing them was just better. I think Great Ball is good in a deck where you just need something. For example, like Mad Party, it makes sense because
Hmm.
it allows you to get something. You want one of 16 cards, and you're fine with any of them, essentially. But like that's not that impressive. Most decks aren't like that. Most decks you need specific cards, specific turns. Specifically, you want certain cards early turns. Capturing Roma will get you some of those cards. It won't get you all those cards, but the idea is they can like hopefully get the rest. I don't think Great Ball's good enough.
I mean, look, and I know you don't agree with me on it. I think if you have a deck with a decent enough Pokemon and you're okay with flexibility of what you get, it works, right? And there are decks where the discard is a problem. I don't like the coin flip, I gotta say. So that's one big factor, right? If the coin flip is fine for you, that's one thing. Um, I think it's a legitimate option for a lot of decks, though, is what I'll say.
I think it's okay. I don't think it's like awful, but I don't think it's the best option. I think in almost every deck, you're better not playing Great Ball. Like I don't think you gave me a specific good deck where Great
I
Ball
mean,
is
I
good.
played it before, like a year or two ago. Also, it was good in Eternatus. Okay, you could play it in Eternatus. I know
Yeah,
you hated Eternatus, but there you had like four Eternatus. You had four Crobat. You had like four Goons, and you had all these Pokemon. And all you needed to do was get a couple Pokemon, right? So Great Ball in a deck like that
yeah,
was
that's the same thing
Pokemon
as Mad
heavy.
Party, where you just need something.
Yeah.
Um, but also there wasn't capturing Aroma back then. I think capturing Aroma would have probably been better in the deck. Um, I don't remember what the option. I think like there was no third option then. I think there was like no, I don't even remember. I think it was like Quick Ball was like
Well,
the main option, and then
and you had Incense,
yeah,
but that
which
wouldn't
didn't
get you
even
your
get
basics.
basics.
Right, and most of the Pokemon were basics then.
Yeah,
But I think those decks do exist. Look, I think there's a place for Great Ball. Maybe you know,
I think when they're like the new Mad Party, not merch style deck comes back in the form
yeah.
of Wings of Union, I think this will pop up and see some play. Great Ball. But I don't think it's like I think general usage it's not good enough. Like I
It's
just think it's outclassed by capturing over, as I said.
okay. I'm not sure about that. It's not a card for that goes in most decks. That's for sure. I think it's a good consideration. It is of the cards, the first one I'm bringing up, so it's the weakest of the ones in my opinion.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm actually going to talk about, in my opinion, a better search card.
Yep.
I get well a better card. I don't. It's probably worse at searching, but is Mesa Goza, the stadium card that says once during each player's turn, they may flip a coin. If heads, they search for a Pokemon, reveal it, put it in their hand,
Yeah.
then shuffle their deck. This is a Pokeball in a stadium, I guess. But there's the idea that there are a few different ideas with this. One,
Mhm.
it's a stadium bump. For some decks, that's very important. I personally think the stadium is very good in Gardevoir EX. I
Mhm.
don't play Gardevoir EX, but I think it's good in there. um, I think it's good in any deck that wants lots of Pokemon. It's obviously theoretically a very strong stadium because it gets you like access to lots of Pokemon. But then it's also kind of bad because it helps your opponent. And so the number one complaint
Right.
I see about this card is that people say this helps your opponent as much as you, right?
Yeah, I mean, right. Obviously, your opponent uses as much as you do. I'm always generally I'm happy when my opponent throws down the Mesa Goza because I have access to my Pokemon also. So,
Well,
I
you're
always use
unhappy or you are happy.
I am happy. Pretty much I whenever my opponent plays it, I always use the stadium almost every turn, right? And I
Yeah.
imagine most people do. So, and then it's partly it's flipped who's luckier in terms of hitting heads. You don't really want the game to come down to that. But you need to have the deck where it's more beneficial to you than your opponent. So you still don't want to stick it in every deck. You want to be at a deck that really needs that Pokemon search for any card, which
Yeah.
does like in like what you said, Gardevoir, right? Which does make sense. So
Yeah, I think like and because like if you do use it every turn, I think that there's the issue of like the coin flips. Oftentimes it's
hmm
only around for a turn or two, and then it gets bumped. So that's kind of annoying.
yeah,
But I think it's still good because like some decks just need it more, and so it doesn't actually
hmm
help your opponent as much as you. A lot of decks,
right,
like say Lost Zone, you don't need that many Pokemon, especially after the first turn or two of the game. You may need one
yeah,
Pokemon search every turn or every other turn. But like you basically goes helps it a little, I guess, but it's not helping them as much as like Gardevoir, which needs as many Pokemon as possible. You
hmm
just need lots of Curlias, Ralts, Gardevoirs, all this stuff. The number one problem, in my opinion, with Gardevoir is you don't hit your Pokemon, or you're slowing yourself down by using Mirage Step, the attack on Curlia, which just creates other problems as well.
yeah,
So I think Mesa goes in. Any deck that plays lots of Pokemon and needs lots of Pokemon is very good. Zoroark decks, obviously, you're probably playing Armrouge and Magma Basin, but if you're not, you can play
hmm
Mesa goes in. I think it's very valid. I think it's very strong. And there's a path bump. It's also solid. I think it depends on the deck, though. You don't want to be putting it in decks where it helps your opponent more than you. That's obviously not good. But I think it's a very solid stadium.
It's a good stadium. Obviously, like as I just been playing Miraidon, you don't play it in Miraidon because Miraidon you set up right pretty much, so you don't need that many Pokemon. Your Pokemon search cards will get you what you need. Um, Now I would say I'm not so sure it's really underplayed though. It's in a decent amount of decks. The
I've
Mesa
like
goes
never seen this in a top tier deck.
Um,
I've actually no, I've
mm,
seen it in some decks in Japan. They actually played it in Gardevoir, but then most people have moved away and just started playing, just playing like I don't even remember, but not this. I guess Collapse Stadium. What's the main CM bump used right now? Temple Sinnoh as well,
yeah.
which is okay, but not amazing. 'Cause especially when she's not very good right now. But people used to be playing this like during very early days, but I think they moved away from it.
In the top decks, yes, and yeah, I have been seeing a bunch of Temple of Sinnoh, which most decks aren't really getting hurt by that, so that's not necessarily the most logical thing play because basic energy is dominant, right, with Lost Zone and such. So,
Yeah, Lawson,
um,
Marathon, Gardevoir. Um, some people, I think the idea is like Lugia and Mew is what people are putting in for, but
right,
I don't think those decks are amazing right now. They have they have strength, but um, I think they're very beatable.
yeah, and certainly they have ways to get around the stadium. Certainly, like with Mew, they have a lot of ways to bump the stadium, right? They have a lot of cards that can do that, so they have a decent chance of bumping it. Um, I'm not so sure what the current Lugia build has. So
It does
look, I think
special
it's
energy.
what's that?
It plays special
Well, they
energy.
play. No, I know it does, but I don't know how many bumps they have to get the stadium out.
Oh yeah, I don't
That's
know.
because like I think Mew can bump the stadium. When I play Mew, there's a good chance I can bump the Temple of Sinnoh most
Yeah,
turns.
especially because you still can use your Genesect. I like paths, in my opinion, much more detrimental to Mew.
Right.
There are various ideas of like path versus Drapion and like Mew stuff, but Mew doesn't like path certainly.
No, although depending on the build, they play Path too. But that's
Yeah,
now. But I do. I look. I see Mesa Goza when I'm playing in live a decent amount of the time. I got to say though. I don't know the
yeah,
percentage, but while the top tier decks might not be using it, it's used being in just general play. So that's the one thing I think a lot of people know it's a strong card. Um, in the usage, things come and go, and they just have trends. So I'm sure it will be well played at certain times for sure.
yeah. But then yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say about Misagoza,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So that's a solid card. I think Melony is a very good card. Obviously, the supporter that we're all familiar with, right? Attach a water energy from the discard pile to one of your Pokemon V if you do draw three. Um, Obviously, there's EXs now, but there's only a few EXs. There's an awful lot of Vs in the game between the Vs, the V stars, the V maxes. A lot of decks play at least one V of some type. There's a number of decks that even play water energy, even to attack with. So, in which case, why idea of being able to accelerate an energy is always very good. It draws you three cards, which is very nice also. I think it's a card that has benefit to a lot of decks. And even if you don't need the water to attack with, right? Obviously, like with Gudra, you need the water. You could put that in.
they
Helps
play
helps you.
Melanie though.
Some do,
They play
some
like
don't.
one or two, and it's like
Yeah, I guess they do, and that's probably enough for that deck. But also it helps pay the cost for non-water. Most attacks also have a colorless aspect to it, which is obviously like in the past we saw it with Urshifu, right? So there's a number of decks that can just getting one extra energy
Urshifu
on.
is also still playing it with Inteleon, I think.
Yeah, I mean I just find that it's just a strange deck, I gotta say. So I don't count that as a deck. Maybe I
I don't know.
should
It's a
more.
very solid. I think it has a lot makes a lot of sense. Where you just wanna like you just ping the bench. That's like the idea.
No, yeah. I mean, just can you set up? I find it. I just don't understand. I haven't tried it yet, so that's on me.
Yeah,
But
nor
it,
have I.
it, it doesn't seem like it should work often enough, is what I'd say. Because obviously having the Intellion engine made it workable more so,
Yeah.
but that's not this. But with Melanie, I don't think a lot of decks are playing it right now, and I think it can go in a lot of decks. So
Yeah. So you
what,
told me the other day, when you were thinking about Melanie, you had some idea of a deck to put Melanie in. Can you tell everyone that deck?
now did I tell you what it was? Because I'm blanking on it.
Yeah. Should I tell? Should I tell everyone?
You can, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
blanking on what
Yeah.
I
You
said.
said
I'm
Mew
sure it.
VMAX.
Oh, that's true, right? Mew VMAX, yeah. So because I was playing Mew. All right, look, this is I'm going to defeat my argument, right? Because it might not be the best way to go, but playing the DTE Mew VMAX deck. Um, and honestly, when I was playing it, I was like missing a lot of turns to attack because I wasn't getting energy. I was even like digging through like half my deck in a lot of turns, and I just wasn't. Cram was always coming up tails. I'd research, get a bunch of cards. I just wasn't hitting the energy. So I'm like, okay, if I played Melanie, get a couple
Wait, Mew
basic
doesn't play
water,
research anyway.
I guess not. But whatever it was, I was digging through the deck, seeing lots of stuff. Nothing was hitting my energies. Um, and I was like, okay, if I could get some water energy, I could accelerate an energy, get some at hand. It's another way to pay off the attack cost. And also, quite frankly, sometimes that 20 less damage hurts you too with some of the matchups too. So as a different way to pay the attack cost, you just need two energy. They're colorless energies, so just put just two or three basic water energies, accelerate energy, draw some cards. It can set you up well.
I don't know about that one. I don't know. It's something. It's something.
Look, that was a reach. I will grant you that. But I think obviously, like, there's still Arceus is still a very good card. In Arceus, sometimes just having the water energy just act as that third colorless energy has value, right? It's a way to
Yeah.
accelerate your energy. And it's fallen off in its usage. And I think there's just decks, the Arceus plus whatever, Melony, water, it can work, right? And obviously Greninja's around a lot too, so if you should play water energy, it gives you the option of powering that up, or Lumineon V, which a lot of decks play for sure. Now you can attack with the Lumineon, right? You can even power it up in one turn.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help set up Greninja, but like they could already
It
be
doesn't set it
playing
up,
water.
no.
Yeah.
Right. They could play water for it, but correct. They can't get the energy on. It does power up Lumineon, which a number of decks will play that. So,
Yeah.
it's
And I
got,
got
it's
I
got, go ahead.
Yeah, I also think it actually has one thing is that it has synergy with River, and I think that's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. It's actually not seeing a ton of play right now either. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not seeing some play as well, but obviously it gets energy in the discard. You have Radiant Ninja. You can just draw a bunch of cards, and you can get the energy where you want it, get into play. I think Melanie has some certainly potential. It's a very strong card.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's the issue with EXs, and also like Palkia. Really, I didn't love Melanie, but Palkia's fallen off. Ice Rider, your boy, has fallen off as well.
I know. I did what I was thinking of Melody, thinking is, do I want to try an Ice Rider deck with Melody? And I just said, and I honestly, even I said, no, that's just not going to work well enough. I don't think.
Yeah, Ice Rider could be okay. Dialga's pretty good, which is annoying.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I think Ice Rider has potential now.
Can I get it set up right? That's the question, and I'm not sure. I got to think about that. But
Probably like River Room, Ice Rider. Um, yeah, you can still have like Path and stuff. It would probably work okay.
I mean,
You
I
can put
think right
Great
now,
Ball. You can put Great Ball.
well, that's true. You could do it because now I'm losing the Inteleon engine, so that precision search isn't so critical now, right? So a deck that just searches for something, right? I like those type of decks.
Yeah.
Which is why I like Malamar, right? Malamar, you see some cards and you do something with it.
Yep.
But I think Melody's a solid card right now. 6 months from now, it's less good, I think, even though the Vs won't have rotated. There's going to be a lot more EXs around, so the percentage of Vs in decks will have reduced, but it's still almost as strong as it was pre-rotation, right? I think to a large extent, when people overlook it now, I think
Yeah.
because of the EXs
Hmm.
being the new thing.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. I have another card I want to talk about that also
Yep.
accelerates water energy. This one is actually no. Also with Melanie, I think it did seeing like a solid chunk of play, maybe in like 10% index or something. Might be playing
Hmm.
Melanie. Probably less than that, but maybe five at least, which is like okay. But I want to talk about Tatsugiri, which is also one of my favorite Pokemon actually from Scarlet and Violet. Well, nah, I don't know. It's funny because he gets like eaten, but whatever. So it's how do you say this attack? Mice in place.
I guess so.
I
I'm
don't
not
think that's
sure
what it is.
what
It's not
I
like
don't.
English, but I'll say
Yeah,
mice in place.
I don't know what the language is that it's supposed to be pronounced as.
Yeah, so mice in place. Search your deck for up to two basic water energies and attach them to one of your basic Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Oh, it has to be to basics. But it's a setup attack, so it doesn't really matter. This is really
Right.
good. I think because we've actually seen a similar attack on Bolton V, which was in I don't know. It was in Peak Round, which is very good. It was a very good card.
Hmm.
And it had a similar attack. It was a bit more versatile, but also some V, so some different things here. But I think it's really nice because it's just a nice way to accelerate energy. I was kind of thinking this with the Suing Gudra V Star, which I have not gotten my hands on yet, because I am playing Random Battles format, which is very fun and it's certainly worthwhile. Check that out. But I think Tatsugiri is super cool. Its ability to accelerate energy is a nice early game setup Pokemon. And at the same time, it also has this really unique hit and run attack here. I mean, it's not super unique, but it's pretty cool. And I think versatile. Curl up 30, put this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. You can obviously pivot into something probably like Clef Key to wall.
Right.
There's a new, I think, Mimikyu coming in the next set. But right now, you could do Miltank. You could do Diancie, right? There are various options. So I
Yeah.
think I honestly really like this Tatsugiri.
Yeah. I mean, the hit and run aspect is not in a great place right now. I
Right, hit
think
and run's
because
very good.
it is, but if it came out before rotation, you had Wheezing. That Galarian
Yeah.
Wheezing would be great. Back Miltank, obviously, before EXs came out, was that much more powerful. So
I mean,
it's
I think hit and run's like the best it's been in like years though. with
Uh,
multiple, it's both Shadow Rider and Miraidon being hit and run decks
okay. I mean,
with Hatterene V and Regieleki V.
yeah. Um, but obviously I think but you're more focused on the first attack, right? Mice in place or Mise in place, maybe.
I don't think
Um,
it's anything like I think it's probably like I don't think you pronounce half those letters.
that could be. Um, and I could ask people to comment, but if it's written
Yeah,
out,
everyone
we're not.
comment down below how you pronounce that attack name.
Well, there is what the International Phonetic Alphabet or something, but
Yeah,
I don't know how
I'm
that
gonna look
works.
it.
But yeah, obviously, if you use it, it's your attack for turn, right? So I guess if you go second, you use it then, but usually after that, after by the time you're to your second turn, you want to be doing damage, right? So I don't know how useful it is. Now I have seen this card in at least one deck I went up against, but that was a
Mise
Dondozo
en
deck.
place.
Mise
Mise
en
en place.
place. Mise en place. There we go. I'm still
All
gonna say
right,
mise en place.
mise en place, was that what it was?
Mise en place, something like that. Yeah, I'm still gonna say mise
Okay.
en place 'cause it's funnier.
There you go. So Dondozo is the real way to play this card, right?
Uh,
Where I told you I was going to bring it up. I've played against this deck. Dondozo 160 HP, so pretty tanky for a single prize. Basic Pokemon. In release range, 50 damage per Tatsugiri in the discard pile. So there you go. You're probably playing with a DTE, so 180 damage on a single prize basic. That's just as good as getting the what's the one in the Gardevoir deck, the single prize.
uh,
The you know
what?
what I'm talking about.
No,
It does.
what?
It's got 70 HP. It
Oh,
does
the Drifloon, which
Drifblim.
isn't good. Which isn't good. Drifloon's not
Oh,
good.
it is good, but you have to have a Gardevoir EX in play, otherwise it's not good. But when you can do 180 for a single prize Pokemon that you can power up in one turn, that's good, and that's what this card is too. If you can do 180 single prize every turn, you're going to win a lot of games, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't think this card's awful, but I don't think it's amazing. I think Tatsugiri is like the star of the show here, with its
I'm
like versatility. I think Dondozo is like a mediocre, generic single prize attacker. I think some people have played and enjoyed. I've played against it and beat.
yeah.
Um, it has like enough bulk as well. I like the bulkiness of Dondozo. I think it like is very nice in this current format where we see Pokemon like Cramorant, and this obviously trade well with Cramorant and even something like Sableye trades well with. But I don't know. I'm not like a. I don't think it has anything amazing about it.
No, and I know, but I think honestly that's the better way to use Tatsugiri. That's what I'll say. I think of the Tatsugiri with its two attacks, I don't see a lot of use for it. I got to say, I don't. There's not a deck that I can think of I want to put this into, and I would build a deck around using either of these attacks. I got to say, but maybe that's my lack of imagination. Obviously, if you're right about this card is not getting played in and of itself, right? The only time I've seen it is in Dondozo deck. So if this is its own value as an attacker, maybe you finally cracked the meta.
I think this is one of the best new cards from the set.
Almost as good as Skwovet,
Yeah,
huh?
almost as good as Scarlet. I've got to play this card. I don't know exactly how to play. As I said, like Gudra, I think that's funny. I've actually heard some people like I mentioned it. Some other people said they'd actually played against it.
Mm.
Um, didn't tell me how good it was, so I'm assuming it was amazing, and they got completely rolled over. But yeah, I think Tetsuya is really cool and versatile. I like it. I like its card design. Maybe I'm just favoring it because I like its card design with its
Mhm.
versatility. Because both of its attacks are cool. Um, and I think it
Yeah.
could cause problems for some decks.
If there's the right things to make this work with, right, for either one or both of its attacks, um, I don't know if those things exist right now. I'm not sure what they would be. Um, Obviously, accelerating water. I mentioned Melony. That's obviously good, but only to V Pokemon. Obviously, there are ways we talked about. You can accelerate the fire with Magma Basin. You can accelerate lightning with Electric Generator, even with Flaffy. So this is the way to accelerate water. But it's your attack, not an ability or some other way. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it. I have. As I think it's solid. We'll see though. We'll see who's right.
We'll, we'll see what happens in the future. I think for me, I saved the best for last, and I think this is better than it. Well, no, Armor Rouge maybe better than this. I'm not sure, but and that's Fantina. Lost Zone is obviously a tremendous deck, as you had mentioned in
Oh, I
Fantina.
pressed
It what's that?
I pressed the wrong button. I think I gave like new sleeves
Okay.
to my deck.
Okay. So Lost Zone's a lot. There's a lot of Lost Zone decks, and Fantina is the Lost Zone card that really doesn't get played almost at all. But so read it off to supporter. You can use this card only if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone. And if you're playing a Lost Zone game, you usually will get there, right? And if you're playing Giratina VMAX, you really want to get there. And then during your opponent's next turn, all of your Pokemon take 120 less damage from attacks from your opponent's V Pokemon. So it only applies to V. That's the negative now. We have EXs also. But the big plus is, like, unlike Gudra, which just takes less damage for itself, this protects all of your Pokemon by 120 less damage. So making what you're attacking with pretty tough to knock out. And obviously, there are still a lot of Vs in the game. So I think this has value in some decks and can, you probably only play one of it. It has, late in the game, it can extend the game that one more turn, but that can easily mean the game.
Yeah, I feel like there just aren't enough Pokemon V's right now. I think pre Scarlet, pre Scarlet and Violet. I think this card was
Mhm.
absolutely insane. I think people should have played more. I played it. It was like super cool. Um, I think it's a lot of the top decks in the game. We look at Lost Box, that
Mhm.
mostly is in Pokemon V, and often their times their finisher would be something like Sableye. And obviously this doesn't do anything against Sableye. I do like it against stuff like the current Lugia build. I guess it's good against Mew, but they still can kind of hit through. Um, I don't know. I think Fantina's okay right now. I think there are just so many decks that aren't Pokemon Vs, but yeah, that's my thought on it.
I mean, obviously, with the EXs and the other things, it weakens it. But don't forget, but Lost Zone now is even better now post rotation, right? It's kind of become it's the BDAF, I would think. There's a lot of ways to play it, but most of those decks are playing some Pokemon Vs in them, right? You have the Giratina, you have the Gudra, which are each their own builds, and then what you have like Dragonite V and some other ones like that. In the more generic builds, often or general builds, they often have a couple V Pokemon in that. So Dragonite does big damage, so it can really cause a lot of damage to what you have. So I think this card has value. It may have value. Like I said, I probably wouldn't. I'd play one in a deck probably. I don't know that I'd play more than that. Of course, then you run the risk of having to lost zone it as you're setting up. So that's a risk to playing a one of in a lost zone deck too.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's value. It's obviously a strong card. I think it's. I don't know. I like. There's so many EX. Most of the top, like Lost Zone, isn't constantly attacking with V's.
No.
Um, obviously Gardevoir. This is not useless, but it's not great against against I don't know, like Miraidon. It's not useless, but it's not amazing. And also, like, what Pokemon do you want to help tank with specifically? Because in a lot of the
Yeah.
decks, like the Lost Zones are mostly single prizers. Um, you can kind of help your Pokemon V's tank, but probably not. I think the main use is Gudra, maybe Giratina, but probably Gudra. And I think this actually deserves a place in the Gudra Lost Zone decks, but I think that's just one small deck.
I mean, but if you're attacking a Dragonite V or something else, if you attack with um, if you play Drapion, right, which I guess you probably play Drapion V, then that can't get one shot, probably correct? Which is it?
Let's see, 120. Yeah, probably
At
not.
least not easily anyway,
Um,
right?
yeah, not
So
easily.
question, you raised the question, does it have enough value to make it worth the deck slot? It has value. I think it's some decks for sure. Um, it really had been, and I do, I will agree. The idea it had more value before rotation, um, but even then it wasn't played. I think it still has value or may have value now. So again, I think it's definitely a card to consider and put in Lost Zone. And, Lost Zone is obviously big today.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. It's fine. I think it's like a fine card. Um, I honestly wish they'd do like use the rule box wording more. It seems like
Yeah.
they're purposely not using it to make the rule box Pokemon better. And right now they're not doing necessarily the top of the meta, but like I don't know.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's fun to have single prizers. Some and as I said, they're still good right now, but like I don't know. It seems like they had this really cool rule box idea, and they
Yeah.
implemented it a few times, but generally they're just doing it to punish single prizers.
I definitely agree with that. Fantina I would think it's a better card if it says rule box.
Like
And
a better
obviously for
design card, you're saying?
yeah, I think it's a better design card. And obviously, I mean, it's not like they're not trying to keep the expanded cards strong either, right? It's really for the new cards. They want to make whatever the new mechanic, the EXs here, even better to kind of force people to buy the product, maybe. But that's not a great thing if that's their thought, I will say.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and I have a
then
couple of those are we went through each of our three that we chose, right?
yeah,
At this point. So I have a couple honorable mentions that I'll put in, which one is cross switcher because there is the one starter deck that plays the four cross switcher. If you play four cross switchers in a deck, then you probably can utilize it once in the game. That's kind of about the ratio I found out. Right before with Intelligent Engine, you could get them out and search them. Now, since you don't really have that ability, or there's the one supporter, right, that searches for an item, but you need two of them. So
wait, what support are you talking about?
the
They're
one that's
multiple
in a lot of the one that's in the new
Arvin,
starter, Arvin,
an
right?
item and a
Yeah.
tool, because Yoda also just searches an item, then a
Okay.
water Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true, right? So you have some ways to get that. Um, but you don't necessarily want it to use it in that way. But if you play, like I said, you play four, you'll hit it once in a game in a essentially be able to use a boss without using your supporter. It's a big plus. And then the other card I want to
Sorry,
throw
I
out
have
there.
something to say about Crest. I think with
Go
that
ahead.
idea, which I think is true, I think it's just better to play Pokemon Catcher, which is also not
Could
consistent.
be.
But I feel like that you're gonna get once, maybe twice per game. You might not necessarily have exactly when you want it, but nor will you have it with Cross Switcher. I think without Inteleon, Cross Switcher is too awkward to use. Yeah,
Maybe. I mean, if you do Pokemon catcher, then I guess you're putting four in your deck because you want to have a couple if you got to hit it if you need to hit heads that turn. So I mean you could just do it where you say you put two in, and then you save a couple deck slots, but then it's probably not good enough. So you probably have to put the four in.
yeah. I don't think
I'm not
Pokemon Catcher is a great idea, but
sure.
I think Pokemon Catcher is about as good as Cross Switcher. Maybe actually a little better.
Me, I don't know. It's an argument, right?
Yeah. Oh, the deck
I'm
that
not
played
positive
Cross Switcher was the Lost Box, but it's Lost Box, so it felt good.
because it just worked because of Lost Box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a reason why it doesn't get used, but when you have it and you use it, it's really big. So even if you can only use it, let's say once every two games, but that could,
It's
you know,
it's four deck slots too. It's
right, but that might you win that one you've bumped your win rate a bunch those games you utilize it potentially.
maybe. I
So
don't know. I think you're overhyping this one.
maybe it certainly maybe it feels good when you use it.
Yeah,
I'll give you.
that's
I'll
true.
say that. And the other is everybody's favorite card, which we can thank Pokemon for reprinting it, and that's Crushing Hammer, right? Which
Yeah.
I hate Crushing Hammer. Okay, I really do. It doesn't feel good when someone flips heads against you, and it doesn't feel good when I have to flip myself when I play it. But a lot of decks get made better in the past with the Crushing Hammer. I think it still has value today. Now, less value probably at certain times in the past, but removing energy off your opponent's Pokemon does cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah. I think right now a lot of decks like Accelerate Energy, or attack for very cheap, but it's
Yeah.
still an okay card. And then I actually have. Do you have anything else to say about Crushing Hammer?
No, I mean I'm glad it's not being played much, is what I'll say. So I'm not hoping it gets played more.
Yeah. But then so you're covering all your bases. You're saying you don't want to see play, but it should see play. You got
I
it all
mean, look,
covered.
I played it at times, and I hated. I felt bad doing it, but I also won more for doing it. And I think that time is coming back again. at some
Yeah,
point. It just will. It's just too powerful of a card not
yeah.
to.
And then I had another card, another fun card with Bayonet EX, an item lock stage one. I think it's pretty solid. It's like a stage one, which is a bit awkward. I think it'll get better. It's also part of the idea of Zoroark right now, which is kind of interesting. We have access to the EX. There's only like a few, but
Mhm.
I think Zoroark, Bayonet, with some other stuff is kind of cool. And control, you can actually permanently item lock them. You can stick a couple of double turbo energies on. You're doing no damage. Become trapped in the active where they can't switch. I think that's kind of good.
What that was what Bayonet EX?
Yeah.
How do you spell that? I'm just trying. Or
BAN.
what's a BA? And
It's
what does it
psychic.
do?
It item locks for 1 second on a stage one and does 30. Also, its second
Okay.
attack, Poltergeist,
Oh
does
yeah.
50. Is it 50?
60
Oh, 60. Trainer
per
energy.
trainer. So yeah, it's certainly an annoying card to go up against, which I have. So um, it's
It's-
not fun to play against, which obviously is good. Means it's probably a good card, a potentially good card.
Yeah. I think I think some people said played in Gardevoir. I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I think that's probably where I've seen it because I have gone up against it.
Yeah.
Um, but right, it's not maximizing that energy acceleration that Gardevoir has. So I guess it's there to slow your opponent down early on. But by stopping from playing items.
Yeah, I think you could
But
play it in like a Gardevoir Mewtwo deck, but then that's so much like space. I don't know. I think it's a strong card though, so it's pretty cool. I mean, it's not fun, but it's cool.
yeah, and then maybe in some control deck, once that is an option too. I don't know. So
Yeah. I think if there's like an Aurora Energy card, which actually getting in the next set, I'm not super strong, but certainly solid. I think then it will see more play and be very solid.
and it's a stage one EX, so it can evolve from Zoroark, so it can fit into. You could toss it into a deck that wants that as an option.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that's about it, right? Honestly, like the
Yeah.
game, it's a pretty diverse meta, which is pretty nice.
Hmm.
Although on live, I'm finding it hard to get new decks. I mean, it's not awful. It's okay. You can get like the best deck in the game pretty cheap, so that's fun. Yeah, you've been enjoying the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of your for you've chosen not to migrate,
Well,
which
yeah, I think it's live isn't
I
really working. I went onto the forums. You're like, yo, go into the forums. I went into the forums. There's like every other post. So it's like there are two types of posts. They're like, well, I get no. There's three types of posts. There's one. This game like sucks. It's like this game's
yeah, there's a lot of that.
awful.
Yes.
Yeah. There's the one type which is there's like a bug, right? And it's like game's just not working. It's like oh
Yeah.
it like crashes. It's bad.
Hmm.
And then there's the third type which is something that where they say it's a bug where it's not actually a bug. It's just them like
Right.
not like that one like reading a ruling or knowing how the game works. It's like yo what happened to my unopened packs? And it's like there aren't any unopened packs. So um
Right.
yeah, I was like why don't I have five secret rare quick balls or something? Um yeah.
Right. Or it's like a glitch. They say it's a glitch in the game. I attacked and it did 20. It did less damage, but oh, they had V-Guard energy.
Yeah. Oh, or
So
no. Yeah.
it's
And then usually it's
things
like
like
the
that.
person replies. They're like, so, and this is an issue where there's in the game log. It's like they say, oh, it didn't
Yeah.
do enough damage or whatever. And then the person, someone trying to help them says like, oh, do they have V-Guard energy? And then of course the person who posted is like, I don't know. How am I supposed to know that? And then yeah, but you can't see the
Right.
game log, so it's kind of problematic. Now I'm realizing the game log is
Yeah.
actually very helpful, even though it's
It
awkward
is.
and tedious to go through.
Right. I mean, and you lose it when your game's done, but at least, like when something happens in the game and that you don't understand, which will happen sometimes. I think to most players, it's good to be able to figure that out. Um, Look, I understand why you didn't go to live. Live's got its problems, but at this point, you haven't played PTCGO in a while. I think, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you want to. I don't know if you want to migrate or not, but obviously, you have a hard time accessing new cards because you haven't migrated, right? You have less. You don't have a lot of resources, which
Yeah.
that just is what it is. Um, or and you're
Maybe I'll
not playing.
migrate. Maybe I'll migrate.
So I don't know how much. I don't know what the reason not to migrate is right now. Um,
Well, because
I
live's bad.
can't. It is, but are you going to want to play PTCGO again in the old format? Do you want to play Lugia
I mean, I don't
forever?
want to play Lugia, no, but themed is cool.
It is cool. I mean, the I think though at this point Pokemon can't go back, right? I mean,
They
I
can't do anything, Daddy. They can't do anything in
well,
Comic Fossil.
so I
It's
think
just
live's got to happen. You could wait, and that's certainly fine. I don't know that not migrating has a lot of value now, but that's up to you. I mean, the day after you migrate, live will probably crash for a month. So,
yeah. I
you
might migrate. I might migrate. It's like I don't know. I don't know. It's it's not a great spot. We'll see though. We'll see.
Yeah, look, the good news is we don't want to make this all about live, I know, but when Scarlet and Violet came out, there weren't a lot of trouble with Scarlet and Violet release, which is good. So that was a plus sign. I mean, the biggest issue, which Pokemon's done a bad job on, is the Miraidon EX deck on the Battle Pass. That the people that don't have it, that didn't get it, I don't. Last I've heard, people still don't have it, and that was a while ago now. So that's not good.
Yeah, that's like pretty bad.
Yeah, and Pokemon doesn't communicate well, unfortunately. But anyway, that's what we got to work with. So, anything else we want to talk about?
No, I don't know. I might have to migrate. It's gonna be sad, but I might have to do it.
I mean, if you want to get the new cards in a better, especially because you're doing your what random deck format, is that the right
Yeah,
name?
random battles.
Random battles. You need to get some of these inexpensive cards, but you don't have a lot of resources, so that's kind of using up your resources to get other cards. So, you have to make your decisions there. Or you can just spend a bunch of money on codes too, right? That's always out there too.
Yeah. I don't know. I might migrate. We'll see. We'll see. So I gotta. Maybe it's a video. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Well, you should record it if for no other reason that if you lose all your cards, you have something you can send to Pokemon to say, "Hey, I should have this didn't go right."
Yeah.
I'm serious. I took a couple screenshots of just the general data of my PTCGO account just in case, like you have so many rares and whatever it says. I know it doesn't specify, but
Yeah.
do that and just record the migration in case like it says at the end of it you have no cards. You can say, "Hey, Pokemon, you owe me stuff here."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I don't know. I don't think they'll do anything. I don't know. I might try it. But yeah, I think that's it for today.
yeah,
We hope you enjoyed the podcast. I've been Ted Ty, Steven, Uncommon Fossil. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on check out the podcast on other podcast platforms. If you want to, obviously, if you're listening on it and you're happy with it, that's good. But there are other podcast platforms out there that are cool. I
yep,
guess I don't know. I guess I use Spotify as my one. I don't really listen to podcasts, but or YouTube, right? But we hope you've enjoyed. Yeah, I think that's it. So see you next time.
take care.